least 600 people killed in the attacks by Hamas terrorists. Our next guest spoke with us yesterday, just hours after the deadly daybreak attack on southern Israel. His 17-year-old son was home alone at the time and had to hide in a bomb shelter. Raz Shmilovich is back with us today. And Raz, thank you so much for joining me again today. Listen, Trey Yingst reported earlier this evening that the residents were ordered to shelter in place. I first want to know, are you safe? Is your family safe? Is there fighting taking place around you?
Thank you very much for asking that. I'm truly impressed by the fact that we use the word terminology as Hamas terrorists, despite your previous interview used militants or others. You need to make sure the world understands those are terrorists. Just side comment regarding my family. Yes, they are safe. They're actually not in my moshav. They're out of the front. I actually drove back home to witness a little bit of what's left of where I've been living for the last over 40 years. And what I found was nothing but devastating. Sorry?
No, go ahead, sir.
Sorry. What I'm saying is that you're going into houses. We had to, you mentioned, Grisha mentioned the 260 kids that were murdered in the party. The ones that were murdered in my moshav were so brutally shot that we actually had to use DNA samples to identify them because their face was that blur, which means that when I came up to the moshav, I went with the rest of the people to do whatever we can, and we literally went from house to house of victims to look for toothbrushes or sweaty shirts that were not worn, so they will be taken to the morgue that they can be checking for DNA to identify the bodies. But the bodies were so disgraced up to a point that after the shooting took place, and after they were killed, they were shot in the head multiple times by those terrorists. And that's how I spend a little bit of my day. And then coming into one of the houses, one of the neighbors heard me and asked me to come help him when he was cleaning the blood from his stepmother murdered there and his father shot there, and he couldn't do it himself. So I find myself swiping the floor where you can literally see how somebody shot through the window a 70-year-old woman sitting in a living room, was shot through a window. She fell away, she tried to run away. You can literally spot the trace of blood. Then she was shot again, and that was the final resting place because that was the biggest stain of blood, which I basically cleaned myself. And that's how it looked from our side of it.
It's just unimaginable, unthinkable. I'm going to get back to that, but I do want to ask you right now specifically about your son. I mean, he suffered unimaginable emotional trauma. Not only did your son spend time in a bomb shelter yesterday alone as your family had gone away for the weekend, he chose to stay home. He also, his best friend, went to the beach yesterday morning for a swim. Your son chose not to join him. Sadly, his best friend was killed. I do want to ask you, how did your son make it through last night? How is he this evening?
You're asking that, and I have shivers because I literally spoke to him 3.5 minutes ago. Apparently, the terrorist who murdered his friend had a body camera on him, and that assassination is running on Telegram now. There's a video of my son's best friends being murdered, and that got to my son's phone. And I urged him not to open the link. It was a moment to last. He actually opened the video. He saw dead bodies on the floor, and then he closed it. He didn't identify their face, but he saw his bathing suit, and he called me and said, "Dad, they murdered him. We are dealing with so well-oiled system of brainwashing and knowing how to play with us and how to hurt our feelings that up to now Hamas hasn't released any footage, any names of who they have in captivity so they can torture us. They are torturing us and trying to morally fight us by releasing images of kids, 15, 16 years old kids. You are bragging, you are proud that you are a fully trained terrorist, fully armed, and you are shooting in the head from zero distance, 16, 17-year-old kids fishing on the beach. Wow, a lot to brag about. And that's what we're dealing with. And now when images are starting to come from Gaza, and I'm supposed to feel sorry that they're hiding in a school, hiding away from Israel, attacking terrorists, next time, don't sleep with a dog because you might have rats. If you are hosting, if you are giving shelter to terrorists, your blood is allowed. I'm after you. And if my son has to see images of his best friend being murdered, there's a line there. And this line has been passed.
What would you like Prime Minister Netanyahu to do to deal with Hamas?
Again, we're coming back to the same question. I spoke about it today with my friends, with my fellows, with my neighbors in the Moshav. What do we expect to happen? Because we're well experienced. We've passed through various military operations, quote unquote. And now this was declared as a war. It does feel different in a way that usually what happens after an escalation, after something like that happens, we fight back. This time we don't see massive, despite the reports you're getting, this is nothing like we used to see in that early days of fighting. Usually in the early days of fighting, it's all hell let loose. There's a lot more use of artillery and air force from our side. I'm seeing way less than that. Count the amount of rockets launched from Gaza into Israel today. I haven't counted them, but it feels like it's much less than what it used to be. What I'm expecting them to do is maybe now something different. It reminds me of an episode I saw of the White House, the series. Do something that is an unproportional response. And I'm quoting, don't make me feel as if cutting somebody's allowance. Do something for a change that will break, devastate, destroy, kill every Hamas terrorist, jihad, Islamic jihad terrorist, any supporter, anybody who thinks that by helping Hamas, they are helping themselves will know that I will chase you down exactly as I chase any terrorist. You collaborate, you help Hamas, you're as good as dead. We will hunt you down. Have no mistake, Hamas caused us some severe damage. It's a fender bender. We can smash them down, no problem.
Raz Shmilovich, I am very sorry for your suffering and for your family suffering, and I appreciate you taking the time to share your story. I'm sorry you're going through this. Be safe, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for letting us speak our voices. Truly appreciate it, and I wish you all the best, and God bless.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.